Oh my God, the PFL, the Professional Fighters League. I don't know if Donn Davis could have made a fool of himself anymore with his recent comments. Now, the PFL makes a lot of good decisions, but there are more bad than good. And when it comes to viewership and stuff, it's a private corporation, so we don't really get to see it. But being fighter first and the way they treat, talk, and kind of push fighters makes me believe they're fighter last. And it's just more corporation founders, suits that just suck at personable skills and running companies that just continue to run companies into the ground. And I don't think we'll ever have an alternative to competing with the UFC. But I want to highlight one situation that just happened recently. Weighing In podcast with Josh Thompson and Big John McCarthy, two guys that honestly I love listening to. They have very a vast knowledge of the sport from two different sides. Big John being in mixed martial arts since the beginning. He knows so much. If there is an encyclopedia on the sport that's honestly very unbiased, it would be Big John McCarthy. And then you have Thompson, who in cage has fought for the UFC, has fought outside the UFC, has done it all, competed, negotiated, all that sorts of things. Two great guys to listen to. They have Donn Davis on their podcast, and I will play a little clip for you guys of what he had to say about Kayla Harrison deciding to go from the PFL to the UFC.
To the UFC, and that's Kayla.
It's the only one in 6 years. It's interesting. Some people at the very top of their career are LeBron James, and some at the very top of their career are Kevin Durant. And they're both otherworldly basketball players. They are as very different as people. One wants to lead and change their sport, and wherever they are is the best of the world. The other is a follower who needs validation, and we couldn't do anything about that.
All right. There's like talking.
So Donn Davis mentioned that Kayla Harrison had, from what I took from it, the mindset of a Kevin Durant as a follower looking for validation instead of LeBron, who I guess doesn't look for validation, even though LeBron wanted to be at the pinnacle of his sport, has done everything he could do to be recognized as the best in the world. First off, the analogy is just idiotic, stupid, unthoughtful, even though it looks like he thought of this explanation for a while and when someone was going to bring this to him, but still just so stupid to bring up these two athletes at where they are in their careers. Both basketball players, neither have competition. It's not like there is an ABA for them to go to that they can promote and become the greatest. The best basketball players in the world play in the NBA. The best mixed martial artists are in the Ultimate Fighting Championship. So if you're going to make a stupid analogy like that, Kevin Durant, LeBron James, Kayla Harrison is not going from ABA to the NBA when they were merging. No, it's like going from the G League to the NBA and chasing greatness. And I know that any basketball player, whether your name's fucking LeBron, whether you're any basketball player, that's going to be your goal entirely. But even more than that, even more than the idiotic nature of his comments and his analogy, is the idiotic treatment of the stars of the sport, acquiring a company that was burning money in Bellator, acquiring them as a company that burns money in the professional fighter leagues, that struggles to pull ratings. It's crazy to me to think that in the one place you want to be, it's positive. You want to have a positive outlook for these fighters. You want to give them, you want to cheer for them when they made their name in your organization. And there is no better athlete that personifies being grown in your organization more than Kayla Harrison. And if she ends up being a world champion in the UFC, you have further argument to say that your organization harbored the best fighters, but instead you do in the most corporate way possible shame one of your pillars, one of the best fighters that ever fought under your organization. You shame them because they decided that once they had done all they really could do with the PFL, they decided to go to the UFC that has produced $100 million fighters. Conor McGregor, a perfect example, who have produced legends and icons of sport. She decides to go there and try to continue. And again, you do it in the most corporate way possible. Maybe this is what it's going to take to beat the UFC. You're going to take an absolute fucking dickhead who doesn't really care about the fighters, says that he does care about the fighters because that's really the only route you can take when you look at the UFC, because all MMA media does and all media members really do is bash the UFC for their bad treatment of fighters. Maybe you need a guy like this who's going to treat his fighters and talk about his fighters even worse to build an organization that's going to compete with the UFC. I'm going to take a wild wild guess from what they've done in buying Bellator and not honoring contracts that that's not going to be the case, and that they're going to create more enemies than they do fans, and they can keep up this act of being this holier than thou care for the fighters organization. Well, in my opinion, behind the scenes, what we see from Donn Davis and others, that they really could care less, and that they're just going to try and underhand tactics make as much money as they possibly can. But that's just my 2 cents on this situation. If you enjoyed, smash the like button, subscribe, and let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I'd love to hear them. But that'll do it for today. Peace out.